You need to be in the position where it is the cost of the fuel that actually matters, and not the cost of building the rocket in the first place. I realized that a methane-oxygen rocket engine could achieve a specific impulse greater than 380. I started SpaceX with the expectation of failure. If something's important enough, you should try. Even if the probable outcome is failure. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad. Constantly seek criticism. A well-thought-out critique of what you're doing is as valuable as gold. If heat death of the universe is the destination, it really is all about the journey. Patience is a virtue, and I'm learning patience. It's a tough lesson. People should pursue what they're passionate about. That will make them happier than pretty much anything else. The fuel cell is just a fundamentally inferior way of delivering electrical energy to an electric motor than batteries. With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. In all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, it's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out. If the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that incredibly depressing. For me, it was never about money, but solving problems for the future of humanity. Humans need to be a multi-planet species. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better. You should be innovating so fast that you're invalidating your prior patents. Really, the only thing that makes sense is to strive for greater collective enlightenment. With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. The path to the CEO's office should not be through the CFO's office, and it should not be through the marketing department. It needs to be through engineering and design. You get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems you solve. You want to do things you're passionate about, but also are useful to other people. To our knowledge, life exists on only one planet, Earth. If something bad happens, it's gone. I think we should establish life on another planet, Mars in particular, but we're not making very good progress. SpaceX is intended to make that happen. I think you should always be seeking negative feedback. Tesla is here to stay and keep fighting for the electric car revolution. Self-driving cars are the natural extension of active safety and obviously something we should do. As a child, I would just question things. I do love email. Wherever possible, I try to communicate asynchronously. I'm really good at email. Actively seek out and listen carefully to negative feedback. Why is there no flat Mars society? We have this handy fusion reactor in the sky called the Sun. You don't have to do anything. It just works. It shows up every day. In order for us to have a future that's exciting and inspiring, it has to be one where we're a space-bearing civilization. I just want to retire before I go senile, because if I don't retire before I go senile, then I'll do more damage than good at that point. People often mistake technology for a static picture. It's less like a picture and more like a movie. It's the velocity of technology innovation that matters. It's the acceleration. Mars is the only place in the solar system where it's possible for life to become multiplanetarian. You should take the approach that you're wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong. Even if there's a zombie apocalypse, you'll still be able to travel using the Tesla supercharging system. I think it matters whether someone has a good heart. The future of humanity is going to bifurcate into directions. Either it's going to become multiplanetary, or it's going to remain confined to one planet, and eventually there's going to be an extinction event. Silicon Valley has some of the smartest engineers and technology business people in the world. I hate writing about personal stuff. I don't have a Facebook page. I don't use my Twitter account. I am familiar with both, but I don't use them. My vision is for a fully reusable rocket transport system between Earth and Mars that is able to refuel on Mars. This is very important, so you don't have to carry the return fuel when you go there. There are really two things that have to occur in order for a new technology to be affordable to the mass market. One is you need economies of scale. The other is you need to iterate on the design. You need to go through a few versions. Nobody wants to buy a $60,000 electric Civic, but people will pay $90,000 for an electric sports car. I think we are at the dawn of a new era in commercial space exploration. We have a strict know-a-hole policy at SpaceX. And we fire people we give them a little bit of warning. But if they continue to be in a hole, then they're fired. One of the really tough things is figuring out what questions to ask. Once you figure out the question, then the answer is relatively easy. The extension of life beyond Earth is the most important thing we can do as a species. Boeing just took $20 billion and 10 years to improve the efficiency of their planes by 10%. That's pretty lame. I have a design in mind for a vertical liftoff supersonic jet that would be a really big improvement. It would take 6 months to get to Mars if you go there slowly, with optimal energy cost. Then it would take 18 months for the planets to realign. Then it would take 6 months to get back, though I can see getting the travel time down to 3 months pretty quickly if America has the will. The thing that's worth doing is trying to improve our understanding of the world and gain a better appreciation of the universe and not to worrying too much about there being no meaning. And, try and enjoy yourself. Because, actually, life's pretty good. It really is. The key test for an acronym is to ask whether it helps or hurts communication. I'm reasonably optimistic about the future, especially the future of the United States, for the century at least. What most people know, but don't realize they know, is that the world is almost entirely solar-powered already. If the sun wasn't there, we'd be a frozen ice ball at 3 degrees Kelvin, and the sun powers the entire system of precipitation. The whole ecosystem is solar-powered. Stormy weather in Shortville. The Tesla Semi will tug the diesel Semi uphill. An asteroid or a supervolcano could certainly destroy us, but we also face risks the dinosaurs never saw. An engineered virus, nuclear war, inadvertent creation of a micro-black hole, or some as yet unknown technology could spell the end of us. I would like to fly in space. Absolutely. That would be cool. I used to just do personally risky things, but now I've got kids and responsibilities, so I can't be my own test pilot. That wouldn't be a good idea, but I definitely want to fly as soon as it's a sensible thing to do. The problem is that at a lot of big companies, process becomes a substitute for thinking. You're encouraged to behave like a little gear in a complex machine. Frankly, it allows you to keep people who aren't that smart, who aren't that creative. In order to have your voice be heard in Washington, you have to make some little contribution. It's obviously tricky to convert cellulose to a useful biofuel. I think actually the most efficient way to use cellulose is to burn it in a cogeneration power plant. That will yield the most energy, and that is something you can do today. I think it's very unwise to be shorting Tesla. There's a tsunami of hurt for those holding a short position. It's going to be very unpleasant. I advise people to exit while there is still time. The overarching goal of Tesla is to help reduce carbon emissions, and that means low cost and high volume. We will also serve as an example to the auto industry, proving that the technology really works and customers want to buy electric vehicles. Trying to read our DNA is like trying to understand software code, with only 90% of the code riddled with errors. It's very difficult in that case to understand and predict what that software code is going to do. People will buy the car just because it's a great car. We want them to think it's excellent value for money, and then, oh yeah, it happens to be electric. Technology breakthrough. Turns out chemtrails are actually a message from time-traveling aliens describing the secret of teleportation. I always invest my own money in the companies that I create. I don't believe in the whole thing of just using other people's money. I don't think that's right. I'm not going to ask other people to invest in something if I'm not prepared to do so myself. Obviously, Tesla is about helping solve the consumption of energy in a sustainable manner, but you need the production of energy in a sustainable manner. I think there are more politicians in favor of electric cars than against. There are still some that are against, and I think the reasoning for that varies depending on the person. But in some cases, they just don't believe in climate change. They think oil will last forever. It was obvious to me that we could never colonize Mars without reusability, any more than America would have been colonized if they had to burn the ships after every trip. The primary means of energy generation is going to solar. It will at least be a plurality, and probably be a slight majority in the long term. I'd like to dial it back 5% or 10% and try to have a vacation that's not just email with a view. So, there's quite a big keep-out zone, and when you factor the keep-out zone into account, the solar panels put on that area would typically generate more power than that nuclear power plant. Government isn't that good at rapid advancement of technology. It tends to be better at funding basic research. To have things take off, you've got to have commercial companies do it. In the case of Apple, they did originally do production internally, but then along came unbelievably good outsourced manufacturing from companies like Foxconn. We don't have that in the rocket business. There's no Foxconn in the rocket business. Well, my motivation behind Tesla is really to do as much good as possible for the environment and the electric vehicle revolution. I think there is still a lot of work to do, and if we were to sell to a big company, I'm not sure it would progress at the same pace. I feel very strongly that SpaceX would not have been able to get started, nor would we have made the progress that we have without the help of NASA. I'm personally a moderate and a registered independent, so I'm not strongly Democratic or strongly Republican. What I'm trying to do is to make a significant difference in spaceflight and help make spaceflight accessible to almost anyone. For all the supporters of Tesla over the years, and it's been several years now, and there have been some very tough times, I'd just like to say thank you very much. I deeply appreciate the support, particularly through the darkest times. Winning Motor Trend Car of the Year is probably the closest thing to winning the Oscar or Emmy of the car industry. I take the position that I'm always to some degree wrong, and the aspiration is to be less wrong. There's nothing. I've bought everything I want. I don't like yachts or anything. You know, I'm not a yacht person, and I've got pretty much the nicest plane I'd want to have. Selling an electric sports car creates an opportunity to fundamentally change the way America drives. I'm increasingly inclined to think there should be some regulatory oversight, maybe at the national and international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. Silicon Valley has evolved a critical mass of engineers and venture capitalists and all the support structure, the law firms, the real estate, all that are all actually geared toward being accepting of startups. Some companies out there quote a start of production that is substantially in advance of when customers get their cars. You could warm Mars up, over time, with greenhouse gases. One of the biggest mistakes we made was trying to automate things that are super easy for a person to do, but super hard for a robot to do. My opinion is it's a bridge too far to go to fully autonomous cars. You can just reload, propel it, and fly again. This is extremely important for revolutionizing access to space, because as long as we continue to throw away rockets and spacecrafts, we will never truly have access to space. A Prius is not a true hybrid, really. The current Prius is, like, 2% electric. It's a gasoline car with slightly better mileage. My children didn't choose to be born. I chose to have children. They owe me nothing. I owe them everything. Automotive franchise laws were put in place decades ago to prevent a manufacturer from unfairly opening stores in direct competition with an existing franchise dealer that had already invested time, money, and effort to open and promote their business. Buy an overpriced boring company fire extinguisher. You can definitely buy one for less elsewhere, but this one comes with a cool sticker. If you're not concerned about AI safety, you should be. Vastly more risk than North Korea. When the zombie apocalypse happens, you'll be glad you bought a flamethrower. Works against hordes of the undead or your money back. The Boring Company flamethrower guaranteed to liven up any party. The rumor that I'm secretly creating a zombie apocalypse to generate demand for flamethrowers is completely false. My proceeds from the PayPal acquisition were $180 million. I put $100 million in SpaceX, $70 million in Tesla, and $10 million in SolarCity. I had to borrow money for rent. I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. I'm just trying to think about the future and not be sad. They were building a Ferrari for every launch when it was possible that a Honda Accord might do the trick. I really like computer games, but then if I made really great computer games, how much effect would that have on the world? But wait, there's more. The flamethrower is sentient. Its safe word is cryptocurrency, and it comes with a free blockchain. Obviously, a flamethrower is a super terrible idea. Definitely don't buy one. Also, I want to be clear that a flamethrower is a super terrible idea. Definitely don't buy one, unless you like fun. The flamethrower may not be used on Boring Company decorative lacquered hay bales or Boring Company dockside munitions warehouses. You'd need millions of zombies for a so-called apocalypse anyway. Where would I even get a factory big enough to make so many? Stop being patient and start asking yourself, how do I accomplish my 10-year plan in 6 months? You will probably fail, but you will be a lot further ahead of the person who simply accepted it was going to take 10 years. At its heart, wokeness is divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people a shield to be mean and cruel, armored in false virtue. At SpaceX, we specialize in converting things from impossible to late. Life needs to be more than just solving problems every day. You need to wake up and be excited about the future. I was raised by books. Books, and then my parents. I wonder how many dead one-planet civilizations are out there in the cosmos that never made it to the other planet and ultimately extinguished themselves or were destroyed by external factors. Probably a few. There have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? Education is basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain. The most entertaining outcome is the most likely. Don't confuse schooling with education. I didn't go to Harvard, but the people that work for me did. Science is discovering the essential truths about what exists in the universe. Engineering is about creating things that never existed. When I was a child, there's one thing I said: I never want to be alone. That's what I would say. I think we have a duty to maintain the light of consciousness, to make sure it continues into the future. When I was a little kid, I was really scared of the dark. But then I came to understand dark just means the absence of photons in the visible wavelength, 400 to 700 nanometers. Then I thought, well, it's really silly to be afraid of a lack of photons. Then I wasn't afraid of the dark anymore after that. If you buy a ticket to hell, it isn't fair to blame hell. Possessions weigh you down. Whatever area that you get into, given that, even if you're the best of the best, there's always a chance of failure. So, I think it's important that you really like whatever you're doing. If you don't like it, life is too short. And also, if you like what you are doing, you think about it even when you are not working. It's something your mind drawn to. And if you don't like it, you just really can't make it work, I think.